Hello everyone, welcome back to Colin Does Stuff. We are here with another bike video. Today I'm going to be looking at my 1993 GT Tequesta and telling you 3 reasons why old bikes are cool. Thanks for watching. The first reason that I think old bikes are cool is that they are easy to work on, and I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into that. There's kind of some subcategories to why I think they're easy to work on, and the first one is quite basic, but it is external cable routing, which means that your housing and your cables coming from your brakes and your shifters and anything else you might have on this, good luck fitting a dropper post. It's like a 26.8 mil seat post. Anyway, that means it's quite easy to swap parts. Let's say I wanted to take this whole front brake off. Super easy, slide it off the handlebar. I don't have to disconnect it to remove it. It's a little bit of a different story for the rear brake, because there actually is one part that's kind of internal cable routing. Right in here, there are some cable guides that the cable has to go through rather than you can just set it into it. External cable routing makes things easy, especially for the home mechanic, which I sometimes am. It may not look quite as clean as internal cable routing, but it gets the job done and it works well. And often you can get great shifting because you have less housing that the shift cable is going through. However, sometimes this does mean you're going to have more places where moisture can get into your shift cables. Like this area would be free of housing, then it would have a loop going to our imaginary derailleur, which I'm eventually going to get on there. Still deciding. Most bikes from this era have external cable routing. There's a couple little internal things. Sometimes they'll have an internal bit through the stem for those canty brakes. This one has a little bit right here. Second kind of subcategory to being easy to work on is the standards that this bike features. So when I say standards, I mean parts standards. For example, the axle spacing, it is what you would expect for a 90s mountain bike. We have a 100 millimeter front fork, and then at the rear, it is a 135 millimeter spacing. The reason this can make working on bikes like these easy is that you can generally find a lot of used parts and some new with these common standards that have, in some cases, stood the test of time. Other standards that have stood the test of time would be our head tube. This is an 1.125" head tube. Now, for those of you that saw my last video, you'll know that the fork is not threadless, so that's a bit of a weird standard. You got me there. But the head tube is standard. You can find a lot of straight steer 1.125" head tube forks and also 1.125" headset cups. The seat post is not standard. It would be very nice if this was a 27.2 diameter seat tube so you could run your super common road sizes. That's just not the case. They were kind of going all over the place back in the 90s, but I still managed to find one. It's silver. I'm happy with that. The bottom bracket is another standard that's remained the same. So it's an English threaded, or BSA, many different ways to say it. I think it's a 73 mil shell. I could put a modern bottom bracket in this if I wanted to. That means you can also run old parts, old and new. I like that about these bikes, and I think that makes them easy to work on. This bike has mounts for rim brakes, and they are simple. You can pretty much just look at them and tell how they work, as opposed to a lot of modern parts where everything is enclosed. You can't really see what's going on until you dig a little deeper. That's what makes old parts like this and old bikes like this easy to work on. I'm not saying the newer, more complex parts are bad. I'm just saying they're different, and these ones, they serve a purpose and they do a good job of being simple and easy. Reason number 2 is that old bikes are durable, or at least they tend to be durable, and they often tend to be more durable than the bikes that are being produced today. Let's get into that. If you can keep a steel frame free of corrosion, it's gonna last a really long time. There are other frame materials for bikes, as you might know: carbon fiber, aluminum, titanium, bamboo. Some of those are also very durable. I think titanium is maybe even more durable than steel, especially because it's corrosion resistant. I don't have any titanium bikes, can't really comment on that. That's just what I've heard and read. I really like steel as a frame material, and I think old bikes that are made of steel are cool because they are durable. Durability is important to me because I tend to keep things for a long time, because I really like the things that I choose to own. That's kind of the way I work, especially with bikes. This frame being steel gives me the confidence to know that, yes, I can bang it up a little bit, not purposefully, of course, but also that if it falls over or if I crash and hit something, it's tough. It's a tough frame. Modern frames that are made of carbon fiber are also very strong. However, they're more prone to damage. Steel is cool. You can fix it. You can bend it. It's not going to catastrophically fail most of the time. All that being said, there are some downsides to old bikes and whether or not they are durable, and corrosion, rust is a big part of that. Steel is prone to corroding, especially for frames like this on the inside. If you can't see it, sometimes the corrosion can just kind of happen under your nose. Always good to check your seat tube and bottom bracket area to make sure you don't have salt building up there and then corroding your beloved bike away. Reason number 3, old bikes are fun to ride. Of course, this is just my opinion. Ride whatever bike you think is fun to ride. I think these bikes are fun to ride for 2 main reasons. The first one, and this doesn't apply to all old bikes, but it does apply to a lot of 90s mountain bikes, like this one, is the wheel size. This is a 26-inch wheeled frame. If you haven't ridden 26-inch wheels in a long time or ever, you should try it. They're just really fun. Riding on a 26-inch wheeled bike, you can just accelerate like crazy. That's also really cool. I noticed that. I'm not sure if that's actually related to the wheel size. I think it is. They're nimble, you can move them around. You never have to worry. Not never. A lot of the time you don't have to worry about toe overlap with the 26-inch wheeled bike. But yeah, the wheel size makes it fun to ride just because they're so maneuverable. Another reason that these bikes are fun to ride, and this is kind of a pro and a con, a good thing and a bad thing, is the geometry. In the 90s, in the early days when they hadn't figured out what angles and what dimensions make these bikes good at being what they were supposed to be, which was a mountain bike. Not to say they're bad mountain bikes. This bike, at least, has quite a steep head tube angle, which means when you're going downhill, especially on technical terrain, doesn't even have to be technical terrain. When you're going downhill, you feel like you're kind of over the front of the bike, and that makes it pretty exciting because you're kind of worried that you might crash. Assuming you don't crash, or you crash mildly, that makes these bikes fun to ride. These bikes lend themselves to developing, I think, your skills as a rider to make sure that you don't crash, which might seem a little weird. I think it is a little weird. If you take them on terrain that isn't too crazy, they're really fun. You did it! You made it to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments below. See you in the next one. I have no chain. We're moving it to the light. Take photo.